Hello, Steve Mills, live again on my podcast called Result. It's great to be back and welcome to all my listeners. This podcast thing's really starting to grow, and I'm sure you're probably using YouTube to do your marketing. If you're not, you really should be. YouTube has become the TV of the modern world, and I heard the other day that for the first time in the UK, YouTube was watched more hours than TV on a particular day. Just like, the fact that you hear that now more internet browsing, more people are watching and listening and reading stuff online on their phones than on desktop computers. So it's just another example, really, of how the world's changing. And you may be thinking, well, what's that got to do with me? Well, certainly as far as YouTube's concerned and video marketing, it represents a huge opportunity. When was the last time that you as a small business owner could afford to advertise on the TV? Well, the answer is probably never. That's going to cost you best part of, $500,000, something like that. And for most small businesses, it's too big a risk. It might be a really good thing to do, by the way, but the problem is the risk factor, and that's always to be taken into consideration. If you spent $500,000 and it made you $3 million, then, where's the problem? But there's a risk factor there, so I don't necessarily recommend that. But what I do recommend is the use of video and the use of video marketing, because it's a great concept, and the key to it is obviously taking action, but more importantly making sure that you know what action to take, because right now there are lots of different things that you could do, ways in which you could market your business, but if you don't really know and understand them, then you're probably going to miss out. The other opportunity, as I've just mentioned, is podcasts. Podcasts is audio, basically. And again, back in the day when I first started out in this business, a quarter of a century ago, the medium was radio. You'd advertise on the radio, and that wouldn't necessarily cost you $500,000, but it might cost you £3,000, £4,000, £5,000, £10,000, something like that, which again may or may not be a big risk for you and your business. And whilst both those mediums are still genuine marketing opportunities, I can set up my podcast, I can gain followers to my podcast, of which I've done, and I can start marketing my business on my podcast like I'm doing now by demonstrating my expertise. And I can do that for virtually nothing. I think this podcast cost me something like, from what I recall, I think it's about $120 per year. And for that, I've got not quite unlimited time, but more time than I can ever use. And I probably do a podcast every, in an ideal world, I'd do one every day, but I tend to get too busy and finish up doing 2 or 3 a week. So, for $120, you can advertise your business 2 or 3 times a week. You can grow your list of connections. You can start communicating with those connections, and just generally, building your business. And I think that's a huge opportunity, and one that's often underrated, underutilized, and not really, to be honest, understood by small business owners. The system that I use, by the way, is called Spreaker. It's like speaker, but with an R in it. Spreaker. I think it's .com, but I'm sure if you Googled Spreaker, you would find out all about it. No doubt there are many others. I found this one, thought it was reasonably easy to use and good value, so I used this one. And I feel confident in recommending it to you if you want to do that. And by the way, if you do and you want guest speakers, which I strongly recommend you do, then I'd be very happy to be a guest on your podcast. That's assuming you've got a reasonable amount of followers. If you've only got 2 people that follow you, then you probably need to build it up before I'd be willing to come on there. But let's just leave that as an open offer to you. If you've got a few hundred people following you, give us a shout, and I'd be very glad to be a guest on your podcast. So all that said, that's about it, I think. So my message is really start to use YouTube. Why wouldn't you? And video marketing, and also cross over to audio marketing through podcasts like this. So thank you ever so much for listening. If you want to use the other sort of speaker medium, which is webinars, they're also a great opportunity. And what I'd suggest as your first step down that route is to come on to my webinar and listen to me. Have a listen to what I say, how I say it, and that might help you and move you towards doing your own webinars, which you can then obviously market on YouTube and via your podcast. So that's it. Thank you very much for listening. If you want to know more from me, go to www.stevemills.co. Thanks very much.